Democrat James Talarico leading Republican Ken Paxton by 5%, marking the largest lead in any public poll taken during the general election period. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Craig Lavati. It's a Houston tradition, known for concerts and horseback, but what keeps them busy the other 49 weeks of the year? Houston Livestock Show Rodeo's new chairman explains how they are changing lives through scholarships and preparing for the future. And as always, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A Capitol Hill hearing where lawmakers question Anthony Fauci has just ended. A GOP-led committee asked the veteran public health experts about his role in the government's response to the coronavirus pandemic. A number of Republican lawmakers, including Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, the committee chair, questioned Dr. Fauci about whether he covered up any evidence indicating COVID might have originated in a lab, which remains an unproven claim.
Publicly, Anthony Fauci promoted the theory that the virus arose naturally, while privately, he was well aware of a mountain of evidence suggesting the virus originated in the lab. The American people deserve answers. The American people deserve to know why dangerous research was funded by NIAID in a totalitarian country, in a lab that lacked acceptable safety standards.
Today, Dr. Fauci opted to invoke the Fifth.
Although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government and my decades-long record of cooperating with Congress, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions. Thank you.
Before leaving office, former President Joe Biden preemptively granted Fauci a full pardon, but some Republicans had warned Fauci could still be prosecuted for perjury if he lied under oath. President Trump and the Department of Justice are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to toss an $83 million defamation verdict columnist E. Jean Carroll won. Carroll accuses Trump of sexually assaulting her years ago in a department store fitting room. Trump later accused her of fabricating the allegation for publicity. A jury awarded Carroll damages, but government attorneys say Trump cannot be sued for comments he made during his first term as president. The United States and Saudi Arabia launched a wave of airstrikes targeting Iranian-backed militias in Iraq today. NPR's Jana Raff reports the armed group said at least 20 of their fighters were killed.
The U.S. and Saudi Arabia have blamed the Iran-backed militias in Iraq for drone attacks on Saudi oil facilities this week. Iraq's prime minister, who met President Trump last week in Washington, convened an emergency security meeting in Baghdad after the airstrikes. The U.S. has been pressing Prime Minister Ali Zaidi to rein in Iranian-affiliated militias that are part of Iraq's official defense forces. Jordan's military also said it shot down 5 Iranian missiles early Wednesday. Iran has been targeting U.S. bases in the kingdom. Jana Raff, NPR News, Amman.
At last check on Wall Street, the Dow is down 864 points. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Shelby Rose, the lawyer for the witness to the fatal ICE shooting that occurred in Houston, who was ordered to be released from ICE custody, is speaking about next steps. Jose Trinidad Rojas Pliego, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico, was in the van at the time of the shooting. News 88.7's Bianca Seward reports.
After 3 weeks in detention, a federal judge says Rojas Pliego must be released within 48 hours, and he may not be redetained without the government proving he's a flight risk or a danger to the community. His lawyer, Raid Gonzalez, says Rojas Pliego has been traumatized by the experience.
Just imagine, he's never been arrested. He's been in the United States since 1998. No issues, no problem, hardworking guy. And suddenly he's in a vehicle where they kill somebody in front of them.
Because federal agents involved in the shooting were not wearing body cameras, witness accounts will be critical to understanding what happened. Gonzalez says the release will allow his client to freely share his experience. I'm Bianca Seward, News 88.7.
More than 20,000 Houston rental units don't have air conditioning. That's according to a 2023 census data. So Houston City Council is weighing on an ordinance ordinance that would require all landlords to provide air conditioning in rental units. Councilmember Alejandra Salinas is leading that effort to pass the ordinance.
This is simply saying that a basic health and safety requirement that we are seeing passed throughout the country, including the state of Texas, be met for all tenants.
Currently, Houston landlords do not have to install air conditioning if their rental units have window screens. The parents of T. Mitchell, who co-owned restaurants Traveler's Table and Traveler's Cart and was shot and killed by her husband along with her children, they filed a wrongful death lawsuit. The suit is against the estate of Matthew Mitchell. In it is footage of Matthew in his home discussing money problems hours before the shooting occurred. The lawsuit claims that the killings were planned and calculated and asked a judge to freeze Matthew Mitchell's family's $6.5 million estate. In sports, the Astros secured win number 2 in this series against the Angels. They're going for the sweep tonight. Still 2 games, though, behind the Rangers, who top the AL West. That Silver Boot Series for the division lead starts up Friday night at Dyken Park. It's 89 degrees right now here on the UH campus. I'm Shelby Ropes, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Wallace Foundation, an independent, nonpartisan research foundation collaborating with grantees and partners in the arts, school leadership, and youth development. More at wallacefoundation.org. This is NPR.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. Ernie Manouse with you on this middle of the week Wednesday. I guess they always fall in the middle of the week. With me sitting in the guest chair today is Greg Lavati. Good to have you back, Greg.
How you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been. When were you last on?
Right before Art Car.
But people, oh really?
Yeah, it was the Friday before Art Car.
Wow, it has been a while. And since then, you got married.
I got married. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, I got a ring on now. Yeah, my amazing, smart, and beautiful wife is listening at home right now. So yeah, we're good. Well, yeah, thank you.
If you recognize Craig's voice, you may also know him. You pop into Houston Matters quite often.
Yes, I do the Houston Pet Peeves segment on the first Monday of every month that Craig Cohen deems us worthy of sitting in the chair here to do it. So yeah.
You're no stranger around here.
You guys know me here. I can just walk in the door.
Yeah, we love Craig. Anyway, he's here with us for the whole show today, as are you. And so it is Wednesday, and I'm going to jump right over to what's going on our YouTube channel. Remember, always watch us on YouTube, because not only do you get to hear the show, you get to see us do it. And you can join in with the chat that happens in the chat group below with our YouTubers. It's Wednesday, so we always have the Would You Rather question.
Okay.
So Would You Rather Wednesday.
Okay.
This is a good one today. I like this one.
Ready.
So everyone go and answer this because I'm very curious. Would you rather change the outcome of the last presidential election or decide the outcome of the next one? I think that's a great question. So your choices are last presidential election, 2024, next presidential election, 2028.
Man, I got to think about that methodically.
Yeah.
I would change the 2024 one.
Would you?
Yeah. Yeah, I would switch tracks.
I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to shift people's decisions, choices, ideas, thoughts on it. But I like the question. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, that definitely stopped me in my tracks. I was like, oh no, I don't like. You have to kind of think like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say.
In general, would you like to be able to adjust your future of what's coming next, or would you like to go back 30 years and realign where you're going?
Well, if I go back 30 years, I'd be 13 years old. Right. Oh, there's so many things that I should do differently
why I picked it.
from 30 years ago. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely would probably not go bald.
I don't think you can control that.
I would figure out a way to not go bald. Yeah.
Well, bald works for you.
And maybe spend more time studying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just reading Entertainment Weekly and Rolling Stone magazine.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it helped create who
I guess
you are
it, yeah.
today.
We got who I'm sitting in this chair because of those hours reading.
And you talked
Entertainment
about
Weekly.
what a lovely wife you had.
Yes, I
If
do.
you were a different person, you may have
That
had
is
a different
true.
spouse.
That is true. Ooh, yeah.
But that's not our
Don't wanna
would you
think about
rather
that.
question today. Our would you rather is would you rather be able to have changed the past presidential election or actually influence, change the future presidential election? Take a look, go online, give us your vote. I can't wait to see how we all come in.
This is going to be
Remember,
fun.
again, just go to YouTube and look for Hello Houston, or you can go to houstonpublicmedia.org, and there's a link that'll take you over to watch live, and that's in our YouTube channel. We'd love to hear from you. Then while you're there, stay, watch the show there, and enjoy.
Don't click off.
Don't
watch.
leave once you do it. Stay right there and chat with us. We loved it. We follow those comments throughout the show. Anyway, we've got a big show for you today. Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo's a brand new chairman is going to be joining us. They are getting ready already because in this business, when you're about to celebrate a huge milestone, they're coming up on 100 years. It's a few years off. But you got to start planning early.
Yeah.
So where is this rodeo going? And what do they do when they're not doing rodeo? Because they're a year-round organization.
Well, they're growing the dirt, right?
They're growing the
getting
dirt.
the dirt ready for 288 somewhere. They're
They're also
shining up the
building-
belt buckles.
They're talking about building new buildings.
The new
They've
building
got
looks really cool.
a lot. It's a milestone in how much money they have given out to community and scholarships. We're going to be talking about all of that coming up. And a little later in the show, which kind of fascinates me, there's the talk about this trial of David, the singer, rapper.
Yeah, the rapper.
And there's a murder case involving him. It's kind of fascinating what's happening there. He is a Houston native and
Cyprus.
Yeah.
We found that out, yeah.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing about it is not just the case itself, but it's the way the fans have come together and used online platforms because you become a celebrity. You have this fan base, but now he's in this other situation. What are they doing now? You'll find out coming up a little later on the show. It's a really cool story. Anyway, before we get to all of that, we always like to start the show with the headlines of the day. Craig, take us in.
The latest survey of the U.S. Senate race from Texas Public Opinion Research shows Democrat James Talarico leading Republican Ken Paxton by 5%, marking the Austin State Representative's largest lead in any public poll taken during the general election period. Since Paxton locked up the GOP nomination in late May, polling of the contest has found a neck-and-neck race with neither candidate able to break 50%. But TPOR's poll found Talarico leading among voters who do not have a college degree, a group that has consistently favored Republicans in Texas and across the country, and dominating among independents, less than a quarter of whom said they plan to vote for Paxton. The Attorney General also had weaker Republican support than in any other surveys, with nearly 1 in 5 GOP voters saying they were undecided or would vote for Talarico. The group surveyed over 1,000 likely voters between July 15th and July 17th and has a margin of error of like 3.4% or something like that. They always have to say that in there. TPOR's previous poll fielded just after the May 26th runoff in which Paxton defeated Senator John Cornyn found Talarico leading 47 to 44%. So there we are.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this latest polling? Give us a call or text 713-440-8870. I'm a polls guy, so I'm very fascinated by this. The interesting thing to me is that the margin of error of 3.4% is not enough to change the outcome if it is truly a 5-point difference.
Yeah.
But again, there is 15% that's undecided or has a different candidate in mind or a write-in or whatever.
Some random person.
Right. And so that 15% is what they've really got to be watching because that's enough to sway it either way.
And it looks like Talarico's had a few little hiccups too lately. I've noticed, like in some of his his town halls he's been having too. There's been a little bit of pushback. Mm-hmm. He's been getting some people asking him some more pointed questions, I think, that maybe he wasn't ready for. That, when you get on a bigger stage, it's going to be interesting.
What I've seen is the concern over reaching out to the African-American vote.
Correct.
And from where I sit, for a Democrat to win in Texas, you need to get every available Democratic vote, everyone, and you've got to get the independents and a chunk of disgruntled Republicans. Otherwise, not that there aren't, and some polls or some research tells us there are more Democrats in Texas than there are Republicans, but they don't vote. and the Republicans are a very strong voting bloc. And what you have to hope is that the candidate you're running against has a flaw enough to either keep Republicans home or to get them to sway over to you. Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, once again, I think Jasmine Crockett plays a big part in this. Yep. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where she comes out. I'm okay with during the summer. She's been quiet about this, whatever. But what she does in the early fall is going to make a big difference. I believe, though, from, as we've said before, every candidate may not be perfect. Most of them aren't. All of them aren't perfect. But you got to align with someone who aligns the most with what you believe. And there's going to be some uncomfortable spots. But what you got to look at is, does the other candidate have more uncomfortable spots in choosing who you vote for? So sitting out an election bothers me.
Oh, of course.
Who you choose to vote for, okay, that's yours, between you and God.
Yeah.
But sitting it out is saying you're forfeiting your right and you're swaying the election still. So you can't sit out and say, I don't like either candidate, so I'm not going to vote, because then you're endorsing the other side of what your beliefs are.
Yeah. And then voter indifference is a killer. We've learned that over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So we need to go out there and vote. No matter, you have to make a decision and make the one that's correct in your heart. And it's going to be a rough fall, I think.
I do think another interesting point in this story is Talarico leading among voters who do not have a college degree.
Yeah.
That fascinates me.
That was interesting to read, too.
And mostly because that group, as a group, and it's always hard to lump people together and say that they vote as a monolith, because they don't. But for the most part, they have gone conservative Republican and would, on paper, seem to go more toward Ken Paxton. So how that's going to play out, I'm fascinated by.
Yeah, and with Ken Paxton, too, there's just so much, we can say this, there's so much dirt and strangeness that comes out all the time. And it still boggles my mind that people are still just, knocking off, they're just...
In the business, we call that a flawed candidate.
Exactly.
There is a flawed candidate.
But we're still doing that. So.
We've seen many flawed candidates moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and now it's almost like we're getting to the point where if they have flaws, people are welcoming it. They're like, oh, we're all human. We'll just look past that. Yeah. We saw that happen.
I think the best way to understand that when you look across the board is that some voters are able to separate the person from their policies, where other voters feel that they have to live up to ideals.
Yeah.
And that's where you get in trouble, when you try and make these demigods and they never live up to that.
You'd think we would learn.
You think you would.
Thousands of years.
But if you've got a candidate, the worst flawed candidate in the world, but they're giving you the policies you want, you can swallow it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
It's like I said, this is going to be one of those ugly falls, too, where we're going to be getting random text messages at all hours of the day. Yeah. Vote for our person. Vote for this. Vote for that.
Well, speaking of
not
voting,
looking forward for it.
I do want to know what you think about that poll and your thoughts on this Texas Senate race, which won't just be being followed in Texas. It's getting a lot of national attention. And what do you think of the poll? Do you think you can depend on polls? We've seen so many polls that have gone way off base these days. Can you trust these polls? And for me, do the polls actually hurt?
And who are they polling?
Well, they're polling how many people?
Yeah. a
little over 1,000
Who's
people.
responding to that, too? I've never been polled.
Polling, the selection of those that are polled is a fascinating science in and of itself. We should probably do a feature on that, because they are very specific who they are. Each person in a poll, if it's done at an academic level, represents a huge group of people, but a very specific group of people. And they plan it and they marry it. It's not just a random phone call when done correctly.
Yeah, I've gotten text messages, but I'm just like, report spam. I don't. Yeah, who's responding?
Well, give us a call, 713-440.
Have you been polled?
Oh, yeah. Have you? I thought you were asking
or
me.
both. Yeah.
Both of you, our listener
Y'all
or
and
me.
Yes. What was that like?
I have been polled. I always step out of a poll.
Got it.
Because I feel like I'm not your average
You
person.
know a lot of things.
Well, I'm involved in stories and I know things and candidates and stuff. And I just don't feel it's fair for me to be polled. I don't represent, unless what I'm representing is a group of people who are in media.
Yeah.
And I may be.
I mean,
because we vote in the real world.
Poll me on the best barbecue in town. poll me on the best Tex-Mex in town.
You have something to contribute to that.
I can do that.
713-440-8870. Talking about voting, I've got another story for you. The Trump administration is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to quickly clear the way for an executive order aimed at changing how mail-in voting is handled ahead of November's election. The request comes after a federal appeals court temporarily blocked the policy in 23 states that challenged a requirement limiting the distribution of mail-in ballots to voters on approved eligibility lists. Administration officials say a decision is needed soon, absolutely, arguing any election changes would have to be in place, I should say, by August to affect this year's voting process, which gives us how many more days? 2 days, 3 days? We're right there.
Yeah, rent's due on Saturday.
Okay, so there you go. That's how you know. That's how he keeps track of when the rent is due. I do have a problem. I don't have a problem with different states deciding how they look at their mail-in votes. When is the cutoff? When is the as long as I come from the school of thought, as long as it's postmarked by Election Day, that is theoretically the day you voted and turned in your ballot. If the mail delays it or things like that, that's not on you or the system, that's on the mail system. The Postmaster General deciding who they can send ballots to seems out of their jurisdiction.
Especially right now in the world that we're living in.
Well, I think in any world. I don't want to say it's a political. I just think the Postmaster General's job is to deliver mail given to them, not to decide what mail should be delivered or not. That is something else. So if the administration in your town says, or your area, precinct, whatever, district, county, says you should get a ballot, Postmaster has no say in that, I would think.
Yeah, like they're not sitting there in the office and going, no, we're not sending that to that person.
But I think that's what they're trying to say. You know, well, they're not on the approved list we have approved. We're not going to deliver your mail. That opens up, I think, a very worrisome behavior and policy.
Yeah.
713-440-8870. What do you think? Who should be deciding who gets your mail-in vote? You know, do you believe mail-in voting also is fair? There was a lot of talk this past week about California and the delay it takes to get their finished results from counting because they have a longer period that they allow ballots to come in, and then they have a slower process for how they tally them. And I don't have a problem with that. You know, it's not stopping someone from taking office. It's not that it's that long a delay. And I'd rather them take the time and theoretically get it right.
Because we have that old school mentality, too, that you need to know that night.
Right.
You know, and I think that in the Bush election in 2000, we learned that sometimes,
we waited.
Yeah, we waited. And sometimes it does take time to get a proper answer for all these things.
And there'll be people that'll argue back in that election it wasn't proper either.
Yeah, it's not simple enough as just like an overnight, like the media narrative is that like you have to have that headline the next day.
Right.
You know, you need to.
I also have problems with.
When you go to sleep at night, you need to know who your president is going to be the next day.
Right. I have problems with the idea that if the count takes longer, we should just stop it when it hits a certain time. But then that's disenfranchising people who have no say in how the voting or the counting happens. So you may have a slower group. You may have someone who's doing it all by hand, which would take forever. There are different processes. Getting the votes to a certain place to be counted where they should be counted, all of that. To say then I should stop acknowledging these votes.
Oh, that's rough.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It goes back to disenfranchising people, and it goes back to people, you know, when you're filling out your ballot, you have every expectation that it's going to be counted, you know, in a good time, and your voice is going to be heard.
We did a poll here on the station, one of the polls on our YouTube channel, and during the show, the votes went one way. So we announced the results, and then overnight, because it was still on our social media, more people voted, and it came out the opposite way, and we came out and we said, hey, if that's an election and we just called it because one side was in the lead, that doesn't seem right.
No.
But you know what does seem right? A whole lot more Hello Houston.
Yes, it does.
Coming up, we're going to talk Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. So don't go anywhere. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
So easy to do. Your donation now could mean hundreds or thousands of dollars in support, and it makes you a member of Houston Public Media. Visit houstonpublicmedia.org/cars to learn more. And thanks.
I'm Anthony Brooks. President Trump is hosting Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky for critical talks about the ongoing war with Russia. We'll assess the conflict on Ukraine's eastern border and what it hopes to gain from these latest talks next time on Here and Now.
Here and Now, that's coming up at 1 o'clock today on News 88.7.
After 2 years in the political wilderness, Democrats are feeling cautiously optimistic about turning the tide in the midterms.
We have to at least try. And what frustrates me is I see too many electeds that are afraid to try because they're more worried about getting reelected.
I'm Sasha Pfeiffer. We take you to Michigan, where Democrats are weighing 2 candidates for a critical Senate seat. That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Listen today at 3 o'clock.
Support comes from the Houston Museum of Natural Science in Herman Park, featuring exhibits on dinosaurs, butterflies, stars, and ancient cultures, along with the Burke Baker Planetarium and Cockrell Butterfly Center. More at hmns.org. Support comes from Centerpoint Energy, who has installed 69,000 storm-resilient poles and trimmed vegetation from more than 11,500 miles of power lines, all part of their plan to build a more resilient coastal grid for the hurricane season.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Craig Lavati.
Yeah. For many Houstonians, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo means sold-out concerts, champion livestock competitions, and a citywide celebration of Texas culture. But behind the boots and belt buckles is a mission that extends far beyond the 3-week event. This year, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo awarded more than $10.1 million in scholarships to 541 Texas students as a part of its record educational commitment, continuing its decades-long investment in the next generation of leaders. At the same time, the organization is now entering a new chapter under newly appointed chairman of the board, Wesley Siner, who says its focus is on building on the rodeo's legacy while planning for its future, from enhancing the visitor experience to shaping what's ahead for one of Houston's most signature events. Joining us now to tell us more about the impact of this year's scholarships and his vision for leading the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is Chairman Wesley Siner. Wesley, welcome to Hello Houston.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We were just talking about dirt, so yeah.
Yeah, you guys got into a whole conversation about growing
It was
dirt.
about to be a dirt segment.
But it is really fascinating because what we often take for granted in your position, nothing is taken for granted.
No, nothing is. Like, I had become an expert at dirt. Whether it's the dirt at Reliance Stadium or dirt over at the horse show, there's different types of dirt you need for each event, and you have to be, we want to put on world-class events, so we need world-class dirt.
How many items, things do you think we don't realize you have to deal with?
So over I shadowed Pat Man Phillips, the past chairman of the board. So I saw a lot more behind the scenes. There are things I didn't know about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just how we basically build a city.
Yeah.
And live in that city for 3-4 weeks. So, you watch how it gets built behind the scenes, and 36,000 volunteers that are helping to do that is just tremendous.
I want to talk about scholarships and all of that, but since you talk about building a new center. Where are we at with this new facility that we want to build? What are the
Absolutely.
thoughts on
Well,
it?
this goes back to 2019 when we first started talking about this. We needed to solve 3 problems. Reliant Arena, which was built by the rodeo, deeded to the county. That's over 50 years old. And per the county's, we deeded it to the county. Per their own assessment, that building is beyond its useful life. So we had to come up with a solution for that. That was first. Second, we all know parking, congestion around the property. When you put 2.6 million people on the grounds, you're going to have some of those problems. And then also our livestock show. We want to make that experience, the check-in, check-out, we want to make that a world-class experience for them. So we have property down at 288. We started buying that in 1991. So that's our own property down there. and we had 100 acres, and we think we came up with the best solution. It's going to be a $300 million complex. We have a livestock facility, equine facility, and then we'll have some education and museum components associated with it.
And I'm sure people's first concern, those that really aren't that steeped in it, how is that going to change the experience during rodeo season?
Absolutely. Well, when you come out to Reliant Center, you won't know the difference besides probably not as much congestion. This is not a relocation. This is an expansion. So we will be moving the horse show down there and some of the smaller livestock shows and maybe some of the early judging, but you'll still see the same events. I mean, the rodeo, the carnival, food, everything will still be the same on Reliant Park.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing people are most
same.
worried
Yeah.
about. They're like,
when you
oh my
come
God,
out, you won't know the difference. Yeah.
Is it going to be like a shuttle experience too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So over the next 2 years, that's what we're working with. We're working with all of the leadership and the volunteer committees that will be working down there. We're working with consultants. Of course, we had architects and some builders. We're looking at all that, and it'll be a seamless experience to get back and forth. Most people probably don't realize we already have park and ride down there. So thousands of people park their cars down there already and take a shuttle up to property. And it's actually a lot easier than trying to park on. So it'll be a seamless experience.
I'm sure we'll talk more about that in the years coming as we get that all
next
pulled
2
together.
years.
So you can't tell us about the lineup for next year already.
Oh, absolutely. I thought, I was waiting for y'all to ask me that question.
Yeah, who's the headliner?
It's going to be great.
Okay.
I'll tell you first week in January. How's that?
There we go.
Well, we'll wait. Everyone else will have to, so I guess we will too. Take me back. I want to go back into the scholarship talk because this is really kind of amazing and also unique unto us, and especially the amount of impact it has made. The first statistic that stands out for me is more than half of scholarship recipients are the first in their families to attend college.
They are.
That kind of impact is something that I don't even think you can measure how that changes the lives of families, communities. It's really astronomical.
Absolutely. So we get to go to the different universities where we have kids on scholarship. We have a luncheon. We have one every year here at U of H. And we get to talk to these kids, and almost everyone will tell you, if it wasn't for the scholarship, I wouldn't have been able to go to college. Yeah. And then there's a lot of them that'll tell you that, thank you for the scholarship. I don't have to work that second job. I can focus on my studies. So it makes a huge impact. And a lot of these kids, like you said, wouldn't have been able to go to college. 30% of our scholarship recipients first to graduate high school in their family.
Yeah.
So it makes a big difference.
Take me back history-wise and explain how rodeo and scholarships intertwined.
Well, it's part of our mission, supporting the youth of Texas. So we do that in a lot of different ways, but scholarships is most measurable and the one that most people talk about.
Was it always there, though?
No, this started in 1960s. 1961, I think, was our first scholarship.
And the thought behind it. What initially said, hey, this is, and I don't know if you know it because none of us were there then.
That was a little bit before my time.
But the whole idea of we're doing this event, we're serving our community. How can we go further?
Exactly. How can we go further? I mean, these scholarships, you're giving a kid an education that helps the state, that helps the community, helps the state going forward. So that was a real reason behind it.
To date, do we have any idea how much total?
$660 million back to the youth of Texas.
Wow.
And you're also creating like generational,
We are.
people with connections to the rodeo too forever.
Yeah, a lot of them come back and volunteer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're creating a really good pipeline of people who have that institutional knowledge of the rodeo, and they come back.
They come back. They pay it forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we just had a vice president rolled off. He was a scholarship recipient. We have a lot of people in leadership that were scholarship recipients.
Wow, that's fascinating. You never think of it that way, but yeah, it does. And also, having been going for so long, you can see the generations that have been impacted and the families that continue on and the impact it's made. I'm curious, in your position, the things that you have to do as the chairman, and that entails, I'm guessing, of course, preparing for the centennial. I don't want to get to that in a minute, but the growth opportunities, strengthening year-round impact. Do you walk in thinking about what is there that I can fix, or do you look at it as what is there that I can do new and different?
It's usually how can you incrementally improve. Of course, our 2D8 is not just incremental; it's a huge step. We are laying the foundations for our next 100 years as we're about to celebrate our centennial. So it's more about incremental We've been doing it a long time, so do a lot of things right.
Do you bring something, I don't know how exactly to ask this, new and different to the table, or do you feel your job is to preserve and move forward what's there?
Preserve, yeah. Preserve the traditions of the rodeo, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about Centennial. A little out, 5 years away.
It is.
In your seat, it probably feels like it's tomorrow.
I can't even imagine that kind of party for this thing.
Well, we just started this year. We actually formed a committee, Vision 100, to look. We're not just looking forward. We're not just planning a party. We're also looking back 100 years and trying to gather all the information we can, all the institutional knowledge like you talked about. And, I'm sure there'll be marketing books celebrating our 100th. And then the day the 2031 rodeo's over, we'll start celebrating for an entire year.
Wow. Does that put a different pressure on you about what it has to be? Will you, and forgive me for my ignorance here, will you still be in the chair for the 100th? Or
no, that'll be somebody else. Every chairman of the board, almost every position at the rodeo is a 3-year term. So I've just started mine, and I'll roll off by then. But I'll still be on the executive committee and still helping with the planning.
Would you want to be in this position at the Centennial, or is that like, what, somebody should carry that weight?
Oh, why not? Yeah.
I don't want to sleep for a month. I'm fine.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to remind everyone that we are speaking with Wesley Siner, who is the new Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo Chairman, about what the rodeo has in store for the future and looking back at its great accomplishments of the past. If you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call at 713-440-8870. We had a comment that came in. How much are these scholarships go to minority group students of color?
I do not have that information in front of me.
Yeah. I assume that's not how they're gauged in what you give out.
Yeah, they're based on merit.
Merit scholarships. Talk to me a little about the art program, because that's another huge piece of it. A lot of people aren't aware of it. Yeah,
that's been around for a while, and it's amazing to see what these kids can paint. I mean, I look at one and think it's a photograph, or it's truly amazing what they do. And they also do some bronzes, and they do a lot of different things.
When you look at the rodeo, how does it, very general question, I apologize for that, how does it reflect the city of Houston and the county? What do you see as the similarities between who we are as the rodeo and who we are as Houston?
Yeah, the rodeo is part of the community, and you'll see that when you're on the grounds. You'll see that on the volunteer base. Yeah, Houston and the rodeo are cut out of the same cloth.
Yeah.
I've watched a fun evolution. I mean, I go every year, and I review the concerts, and I've watched even the lineups evolve to reflect the city of Houston and its makeup. And it's been so fun to watch that.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. It sounds really goofy and cheesy, but I get chills still when they bring out the artist on the truck, and the fireworks go off and everything like that. I still get a little giddy.
The same I do too when they ride out on a horse.
Yeah. You get, and it's one of those things. You look out at the crowd. I look out from the press box, and you see all walks of life there. Like this year, you had Creed. You had all walks of life.
One of the best nights, biggest
Kelly
nights.
Clarkson. You had all these really great artists too. And I know you could have a whole segment about even how you pick who's going to perform on that stage too.
We have a whole department that does that.
Yeah, and you're already planning out years, I'm sure.
Yeah, you have to. These entertainers may have headlining acts across the U.S. already booked, so it's hard to. It's a difficult job to try to put the puzzle pieces together.
And you also have to think about who's going to pop off over the next year or two, to where they're going to be the next big thing.
That's true.
So,
talking about concerts and all that, younger generations view entertainment differently than the older generations did. How does the rodeo adjust for this new way of consuming entertainment and how they enjoy an experience? Is that something you folks spend time thinking about, and how it differs from maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, in how you present a rodeo?
I don't know that it affects the rodeo itself or our concerts, but of course it affects our social media presence. So that's been growing for years now. It doesn't so much affect the concert presentation.
Yeah. Is there a challenge in making rodeo stay present in this more, as they keep advancing in what is entertaining to people, reminding them, educating them about the sport of rodeo?
Well, that's part of our mission to promote Western heritage. I think Yellowstone has done a pretty good job of that.
You can tell by walking around on the grounds on any given night
yes.
how popular the Dutton Ranch brand is.
Yeah. Do you find that is continued? Because I think back to my time, TV show Dallas, definitely. I was out east, and I had a cowboy hat because JR had a cowboy hat.
Absolutely.
The impact of Western heritage on us as a nation has been very strong and stayed strong.
Yeah, I think that was part of COVID, part of people want to get back to their roots. And then, of course, at the same time, Yellowstone hit. So, yeah, I think people are realizing, Western heritage and back to their roots of what this state was built on.
Yeah, definitely pop culture has a lot to do with what happens at rodeo.
Even pop culture has started to embrace some of that.
Well, and even this past year was one of those years, too, where people started coming to Houston for spring break for the rodeo.
Yes, they did.
And everybody, all of us, in the locals that have been here for, our entire lives are like, what? Why? Not why, but more of we were surprised about the attention.
Yeah.
It wasn't a negative thing. It was more of just there's more people here now.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've heard of people coming from, out of state.
Yeah.
We know the volunteers will come in and, take vacation and work their shift and people will schedule it over spring break. But, yeah, there was people coming in for that.
And you had really good weather this year, too, I think.
That's a huge factor
Yeah.
in our success every year is weather. And this year, I think we had 2 iffy nights, but other than that, it was great weather.
That's a blessing in this area, I have to say. I'm curious, when you are planning what we're going to see this coming year and what's in front of us, if there was one rodeo educational initiative that you could increase or improve or change upon, which one do you think would connect in a better way?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't have an answer right now.
For the silence you're hearing, I'm watching him think. I'm watching
there's
the
so many
thoughts
different.
go through.
There's so many different ones. I don't know.
How does AI work into what you guys do?
We do have to look at AI in scholarship applications.
Oh yeah.
So there's AI to discover whether AI is being used.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really where it comes in.
I want to go back to rodeo because one thing that fascinated me when I first moved down here 30 years ago now, we went to the rodeo every night my first year here because I thought, this is who Houston is. This is a culture I need to know if I'm part of this now. And what surprised me was my quickly evolving love of the sport of rodeo.
Yeah.
And I sometimes worry in the whole hoopla of rodeo with the concerts and the barbecue cook-offs and the carnival and all that, people forget there is an amazing sporting event happening in all of this.
There is, and ours is the largest payout. It's one of the largest rodeos in the U.S., especially those last 3 or 4 days. If that is some of the best rodeo you will ever see.
Yeah.
And we're even, we see it all the time. We're even amazed at how good it is, how good the livestock is, how good the cowboys are. So, yeah.
It's harrowing to watch, too.
It is.
Because somebody will sit down, with their corn dog, to get ready for the concert, and then all of a sudden there's just a human being that's being flung, several feet from an animal, and you're just like, oh, wow, this is okay. This is a serious thing. This isn't just you're not watching the Savannah
rodeo.
Bananas. This is a real deal.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and I think what most people don't realize is I think every one of the rodeo events, except for bull riding, that's all ranch work. That's what ranchers still do day in and day out. You're breaking horses, you're roping cattle. Those are all real rodeo events. I mean, real cowboy events, real ranching events.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating because it's live theater. It's live. It's happening in the moment. There is the sense of danger. There is the opportunity for someone to be seriously injured. But these are all top of their field.
They are.
And how good they are and how athletic. And I bring that up just because I think all too often people lose sight of that part of the rodeo and really go early. Don't just file into the stadium at the end for the concert. See these amazing athletes at work.
And I don't think Houstonians are as united as they ever are until mutton busting happens.
Oh, mutton.
The way that mutton busting will just unite thousands of people in the city to cheer for a 5-year-old to fall off.
Oh, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite events to watch.
We laugh and we cheer with them, and then we get excited when they say they want to be a fireman or a doctor or a rodeo cowboy.
Yeah.
And then,
what's your favorite food?
Yeah.
How did you practice while rode Daddy around the living room?
That silence when they ask them a question, they're just like, 70,000 people are looking at me. I don't know.
All right, you said what's your favorite food? I've spent many a year at the Gold Buckle judging. Do you have a favorite that you look forward to every year when rodeo rolls in, what you have to have?
Probably a trail burger.
Really?
I like a good hamburger. Yeah.
I look for the frozen cheesecake on a stick dipped in chocolate. I'll get one every year. I don't care. I know it's not the healthiest food on earth, but it's once a year.
Yeah.
So I can have it.
Was that your favorite when you judged this last year?
No, I didn't get to sample it. It wasn't in my grouping. You know, they rotate and they keep a very close eye on all of that.
Oh,
So
they do. I watched it this year.
Yeah. Well, we were doing a show this year, so it was a different setup, so I wasn't in there the way I usually am, but I've enjoyed doing it for many years. It's the food, it's the music, it's the sport, it's the people watching, it's the carnival, it's the barbecue. It's so many different things. When you think of rodeo, when you lay your head on the pillow at night, what comes to your mind when you think of the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo?
I'm just amazed that we get to do this, and I think it's going to be about the third largest city in the U.S. pretty soon. Just amazed we get to do this in a huge metropolitan, and the 2.6 million people that come through the grounds that, just like you said, they're entertained by something. By one of those, and then the 36,000 volunteers that help put this on. All of that is that'll never really. I will never take that for granted.
Yeah. Well, we'll never take you for granted or the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Wesley Seiner is the newest Livestock Show and Rodeo chairman in a long. How many chairmen have there been? Do you know a number? What number you are?
Well, probably about 95 divided by 3. So
we'll do the math.
30 something.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Hello Houston right after this.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
Checked to see who has the most.
For the men, I think it'll be a big deal. You'll know when you're talking to each other who beat you. I think it'll change everything.
This whole thing is going to lead to heartbreak.
You can hear that tonight. It's on at 10 p.m.
On the next Fresh Air, renowned classic scholar Emily Wilson has called Christopher Nolan's film The Odyssey abysmally written with all the narrative and emotional depth of a fireworks display. She'll talk about her translation of The Odyssey and why the original text is far richer than many popular renderings of the story. Join us.
You can listen to Fresh Air. That's coming up at 8 p.m.
Adults are going crazy for toys, and they're willing to spend adult money on them.
Realistically, over the past few years, definitely a couple $1,000s. Yeah, I'd say.
I'm Kai Rizal. The price of a penchant for Labubus next time on Marketplace.
Marketplace coming up tonight at 6:30 on News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Alley Theater, continuing its Summer Chills tradition for Houston theater goers with The Girl on the Train, playing now through August 30th. Tickets at alleytheater.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, offering customers electricity plans that match their energy use schedules and lifestyles. All plans come with 100% renewable energy. Details at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Craig Lavati.
Houston artist Tay Butler spent more than 20 years in the U.S. Army before leaving military life to pursue art full-time. After the killing of Michael Brown in Ferguson, he began viewing art as a form of resistance, creating work focused on Black history, community, social justice, and elevating Black consciousness. Through collage, photography, installation, and performance, he explores questions of power, identity, and belonging. Joining us now to talk about that journey and how today's debates over police violence, immigration, and civil rights continue to shape his work is artist Tay Butler. Tay, welcome to Hello Houston.
I feel woefully unqualified to sit in this chair.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you. It's beautiful and weird to be here, so I appreciate you.
Well, I want to start off with the first time that I went and saw a real Warhol in person. I was struck by the size, the boldness of color, the whole presence of me. When I look at your work, I get a very similar feeling. I am just beyond all of what we're going to talk about and the meaning behind it all. Presentationally, it's striking. You do a beautiful job, and just your sense of balance in the work you do. I am in awe. I will tell you, I feel unfit to sit beside you to talk art today.
I appreciate that. As an art teacher, I'm always, people think because of the work I make, I don't think highly of people like Warhol, but I do. Those are the people that made me want to be an artist. So
well, I also think the sense of composition in what you put together. You have a message behind your work, but I've got to assume you're looking at visually what it says at the end, that there's two different levels it has to work on to be appreciated.
Not two, but multiple. There's multiple doorways for people to come into the work, right? Yeah. So sure, I got a concept and a statement I'm trying to make, but you may look at it and only see the colors or the line work or the balance or the scale, right? And then you may also like the material, right? So there's multiple conversations happening at one time.
Do you concern yourself with the aftermath of the work? Or is it, as an artist, you create with your intent and what you want to say and all that, and then it's up to the public to decide whether or not they get it? Or do you feel they need to get your point of view when looking at it? Well, you got a smile on that one.
That's a great question. For a long time, it was super important that you got exactly what I wanted you to get. So I would be very heavy-handed, as they would say, hitting the nail over the head with the hammer. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like it doesn't matter. They're gonna do what they do with it anyway. And there's been a lot of talk about how you only have 3 to 5 seconds to really engage with somebody anyway before they move to the next thing or get distracted by their phone. So it doesn't even make sense to marry yourself to what a viewer will take. You make your intentions, and then once I let it go, it's gone.
It's like you just kind of kick the boat out in the water and see where it floats.
Yeah, I treat it like music a lot. I use the analogy either of basketball or music a lot. So like once you make a song and it's out in the world, it's going to do whatever it's going to do. It may take over TikTok, or it may go nowhere, and then you got to remix it to try it again. So like once it's out there, it's out there.
Yeah. Your journey into art, was it always there with you? Was art always a way you found to express yourself? Beyond what moved you into becoming an artist, just you as a person, as a child, was that always something that engaged you, or did something click that said art was what you could do?
Art was always with me. I have video of my grandmother literally telling me a story of how a coworker that worked with my mom at the DMV kept one of my drawings when I was 8 years old. She said I was going to be an artist. I didn't become an artist until 36 years old, but she knew, apparently. Yeah. I've always been doing creative things, whether it was making music or the way I dress or even the way I decorate my walls in my bedroom. There's always a creative sense of what I'm doing, but I didn't become an artist, so to speak, until I moved down here to Houston, go to U of H, go to school to be a graphic designer, and then decide I don't necessarily want to do flyers for a church. So what do you really want to do? Yeah. And it led to photography, which led to art. So I didn't know that this would be what it is, where I'm actually an art teacher and an artist, creating things and being able to exhibit it to people, until probably about 2017, 2018.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the Michael Brown shooting and how it impacted you and what led you to say, I can use art to say something more.
Well, I'll say that it was multiple stages, right? When Michael Brown happened, I was living in my hometown, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I was a boiler engineer, boiler operator in a power plant, while still being in the Army National Guard.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've made it, as they say. I have my comfortable middle-class job. I got a nice house and cars I like. And so when that happened, I remember being in a break room, watching it on Twitter at the time. And I just stuck to it. It just stuck to me in a way that some of the other police killings didn't. I think it was because it was so loud on Twitter, from the picture on his body on the ground for 4 hours to all of this evidence and all of this stuff. And it just really impacted me to the point where that was like the first time that I was moved to tears over somebody I didn't know, didn't have a relationship with. Follow the case all the way through to the no conviction. And so for me, it was a launching point to ask myself, what do you really want to do? And that's when I moved to Houston, and then everything kind of moved from there. So I think what it did for me was make me commit to living intentionally. I think when you in the military, there's kind of I might not be here tomorrow, so let me just live on the wild side. And at least that's what a lot of my homies did. But I wanted to live more intentionally, everything, the way I earn income, the way that I, support my family, the way that I father, the way that I show up in the community. I wanted it all to be more intention, meaning I'm choosing this. It's not something I'm doing in response, or I'm not limiting myself to strictly making money to pay the bills, but I'm living intentionally. So that's what it did.
How does Houston play into that? How is Houston for you as an artist?
Yeah, so Milwaukee, Wisconsin, my hometown, born and raised.
Definitely a shift.
Big shift,
Yeah.
right? So the shift is in the segregation, right? Houston is very diverse. When I moved to Houston, that was the first time that I had neighbors that were not just black and white. I've always had either black or white neighbors. I moved to Houston, I got Mexican neighbors, I got Arab neighbors, I got Laos neighbors. So like I'm appreciative of the exposure that Houston gives you to these things that I wouldn't have known about in Milwaukee. Also, Houston has a bit of a gift and a curse. On the art scene, they say that what is made in Houston stays in Houston. So Houston doesn't like go out into the world in the same way that New York or LA does. But because of that, Houston has a very strong local art scene. You can be a Houston-based artist and have a very good career.
Yeah.
Whether you're serving the community, whether you're working with these galleries and institutions that are here, whether you're teaching children or workshops, you can do fine just staying here.
Quickly, we're just out of time here. You got to come back and chat with us again. But if people want to see some of your work, where can they see it?
Follow me on Instagram, Stay Close Tay, STAYCLOSETAY.
There you go.
I'll send you from there.
Tay Butler is a Houston artist, or an artist of the world. Let's not pigeonhole you just to Houston. Thanking you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Wonderful
it.
conversation. Coming up, we'll keep discussing today's top headlines, and we're also going to talk about misconceptions surrounding organ donation. All that and more coming up in the second hour of Hello Houston. Don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, enjoy 2 episodes of Antiques Roadshow from the Denver Botanic Gardens at 7 and the Maryland Zoo at 8. Then Iconic America looks at the American Bald Eagle at 9. Tonight on TV 8. You can watch Houston Matters on HPM+. Free to download for smart TVs. For today, it's going to be another hot day. We do have a 20% chance of an afternoon thunderstorm. Today's high getting up to around 98. And then tonight, partly cloudy, a low 79. Currently, it's 91. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, Dr. Anthony Fauci pled the fifth in answering any questions before a Senate committee hearing focused on the COVID pandemic this morning. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Craig Lavati. How does a fan community built to celebrate a rising music star become a crowdsourced search for the truth? Wired reporter Jennifer Swan explains.
Plus, why do so many people support organ donation but still hesitate to register? Life Gift separates fact from fiction and explains what really is at stake for the thousands of Texans waiting for a transplant.
Also, we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us live on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, by Metro, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Just 1 or 2 Republican votes stand between Todd Blanche and his hopes for Senate confirmation as the next U.S. Attorney General. Senator John Cornyn of Texas tells reporters time is running out for the Justice Department's currently interim chief to formally modify a settlement President Trump reached to resolve a lawsuit against the Internal Revenue Service.
Well, Senator Grassley tells me that we need to know by 4 o'clock this afternoon whether the markup is still on. So we still got a little time, and hopefully they now recognize the seriousness of this. I'm not prepared to vote yes. Let me put it that way.
Cornyn wants Blanche to commit to a promise he made earlier this month to ensure the settlement does not include an anti-weaponization fund. Democrats have described it as a $1.776 billion taxpayer-funded slush fund for Trump's allies. Dr. Anthony Fauci declined to answer any questions before a Senate committee focused on COVID-19. NPR's Jonathan Lambert reports Fauci was subpoenaed to appear by the committee's chairman, Rand Paul of Kentucky.
Dr. Fauci and Senator Paul have long sparred over the coronavirus pandemic. Days before this hearing, Paul released over 1,000 pages of Fauci's private writings, accusing him of covering up the origins of COVID-19. Fauci pointed out that he has responded to similar questions in previous testimony, and Fauci accused the senator of being obsessed with trying to get him behind bars.
Although it pains me to do so, because of the respect I have for the legislative branch of government, under the advice of my attorneys, I will invoke my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution to refrain from answering your questions.
Senator Paul and other lawmakers continued asking questions, and Fauci continued declining to answer. Jonathan Lambert, NPR News.
Major market indices are down sharply ahead of the Federal Reserve's key decision on interest rates that will be announced next hour. The Dow has fallen more than 700 points, or roughly 1.5%. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the Fed meeting wrapping up today is the second being led by the new Fed chair, Kevin Warsh.
President Trump made it clear when he nominated Kevin Warsh that he wanted the Fed to lower interest rates, but that looks unlikely for the time being. Inflation is still well above the Fed's target, thanks in part to a wartime spike in gasoline prices. Forecasters think it's likely the central bank will hold its benchmark interest rate steady today, and there's a possibility it could even push rates higher. Warsh told lawmakers earlier this month he and his colleagues have no tolerance for elevated inflation. The Fed's also keeping a close eye on the job market, but with unemployment running just over 4%, regaining control over prices is the central bank's top priority for now. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow's down 1.4%. The Nasdaq is down more than 200 points, or nearly 1%. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Shelby Rose. Parts of Houston may see higher voter turnout this November for the midterm election. That's according to local political science experts examining the impact of the fatal ICE shooting that occurred in Houston's East End earlier this month. Nancy Sims teaches government and politics at the University of Houston, and she told Houston Matters that the incident is having a lasting impact on that community and making residents show up to Houston City Council to make their voices heard at public comment.
More than 100 speakers on this very issue, calling City Council to task for their HPD's relationship with ICE and, anger. And anger makes people vote.
Sims says progressive Democrats have been active in the community, amplifying their call to vote in November. A federal judge has ruled Houston's minority business contracting program is unconstitutional. News 88.7's Matt Harrop explains.
There was a lawsuit filed back in 2023 by two white-owned landscaping companies that argued the city's race-conscious goals violated the Equal Protection Clause. Now, a federal judge has officially barred Houston from using racial preferences when awarding public contracts. City Attorney Arturo Michel says the city will comply with the court's ruling regarding existing and recently awarded contracts while any further court proceedings continue. Meanwhile, Mayor Whitmire's office has not commented. I'm Matt Harrop, News 88.7.
More than 6 years after she disappeared, Texas investigators have identified the remains of 15-year-old Kristen Galvan. In a release, Attorney General Ken Paxton says Galvan disappeared in January 2020 after becoming a victim of human trafficking. Her remains were found in Missouri City that same month, but weren't identified until now using advanced DNA testing and forensic genealogy. No arrests have been made in connection, and a homicide investigation is continuing. And Harris County Precinct 4 Constable Mark Herman is warning people to stop copying a TikTok trend that focuses on visiting abandoned buildings. 8 people were arrested on criminal trespassing charges at an exhibition in spring. I'm Shelby Rose, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include United States Postal Service, dedicated to putting reliability at the core of USPS Ground Advantage to help businesses operate smoothly. More at USPS.com/Ground Advantage.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse.
Well, hello. We made it halfway through the show. We got another second half of the show to go, and Craig Lavati stayed with me.
You let me stay. Thank you.
I did.
Thank you.
I did.
Yeah.
It's been a great first hour.
I'm chained to the desk, but I'm still here.
You can't get away if you want to.
No.
No, I really enjoyed our first hour. It was great catching up with the Livestock Show and Rodeo's chairman, hearing a little bit about it. I'm curious to see what they've got in store for the centennial.
Talking about the rodeo in July just is kind of like...
It does feel weird. I mean, the real reason he was supposed to be here was to talk. This was our fault. We went off on all this with scholarships, and they do give an amazing amount of money and support a lot. And that whole statistic of over half of these students are first-time college attendees. A third of them are first-time high school graduates.
Then they come back to the rodeo after they go to college, and then they become rodeo volunteers, and then they become committee members, and then they're a guest on Hello Houston.
Look at that! What a great path.
The pipeline comes back to you.
It's a lot of work, but if you do all that, you too can be on our
sit
show.
in that chair.
Well, talking about doing a lot of work, we did have the Would You Rather Wednesday question, which was, would you rather change the outcome of the last election or decide the outcome of the next election? This poll was run in our YouTube group with our YouTubers. Love to contribute. So if you're not watching us on YouTube, you're missing a whole lot of stuff. Okay, so what was the results? Well, 74% said they would rather change the outcome of the last election. 26% would like to be able to decide the outcome of the next election. I think it's an interesting vote.
That's also, I think, the benefit of hindsight, too.
Yeah. I think a lot of the motivation leading into the 20. Yes, you did. But I didn't. Wait, we may have tied too. You don't know.
That's right.
I never said what I would have done. I actually probably would have also done last presidential election. That was pretty much where I was leaning. Because I think in this particular election that we even think about this as the midterms, everything seems to be a referendum on what is currently happening. So if you could have gone back and altered it, would you have? As opposed to, and if you are responding to this poll, you probably feel like things need to change. And so change it before the fact that the things went a certain direction, as opposed to let's right the ship. Now, 26 of them may be saying, you know what, I've loved the direction it's going, and I want to make sure we stay on the same path.
Yeah, it's true.
Too. You know, polls, they're a very interesting creature.
Let's talk about 2028 now. Let's just talk about who's going to run for president. The Rock, probably.
The Rock? Is The Rock going to run for president? Is that your prediction?
No.
Well, anyway, we are always running polls over in our YouTube group, and they're always open to everyone to jump in there and add to the poll. But on Wednesdays, we have the Would You Rather. And that was this Wednesday's Would You Rather. Have you been having a good week so far?
I have.
Been keeping you busy out there?
Yeah. We went on a big family vacation last week. We went to Tyler. No. Tyler was beautiful. It's a cool city.
I was expecting you something like Thailand
or
Europe.
No. We drove, me and my wife, Bree, we drove the boys up to Tyler, and Tyler's really cute, really pretty. Yeah. We stayed at a cool little Airbnb and just really enjoyed antiquing and things like that. We only broke one or two things at the antique store.
Did you break it? You had to buy it?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But we're going to try to glue it back together and make it like something
nice
cool, golden art. So,
well, no matter what, it will have a story, though.
No, but Tyler's cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah, the food was good, too.
Yeah. I've got, not to give away a secret, I may be taking a vacation relatively soon because I haven't gotten a summer vacation yet this year.
Where are you going?
And I don't know what I want to do. It's probably going to be a close-to-home vacation, as all my vacations are.
Port Aransas.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You never know.
I'm not even making fun of Port Aransas. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see where my little feet take me. But usually, taking care of mom and all that, I want to stay close to home, so I don't want to disappear. Originally, I was thinking of going to Quebec City.
Oh, nice.
And taking a trip up to Quebec. I love Quebec. But
what's the weather like up there right now?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's not 101 degrees.
No, they're not. At least I don't know of it. If they are having it, no one's told me.
Yeah.
But I think this year it's best to stay a little closer to home.
That's good.
Be around folks and family and friends. Coming up on our show in just a little bit, we are going to be talking about a very disturbing case about the singer David, spelled D4VD. He is a Houston native, and he is facing a trial after pleading not guilty to charges connection with the killing of a 14-year-old. We'll be talking about the case, but more importantly, or more focused for us, is how his fan supporters, his online community, have shifted what they do and what their involvement is with David as this case is played out. We have the author from a very important investigative piece that's going on Wired, and she'll be here with us in just a few minutes. But as always, we like to start with the headlines of the hour. Craig, take us in.
Yes, sir. Anthony Fauci declined to answer any questions before a Senate committee focused on the coronavirus pandemic this morning. Fauci, who was subpoenaed to appear by Kentucky Senator and Committee Chair Rand Paul, has long sparred with the senator over the origins of the coronavirus that caused the pandemic. Days before Wednesday's hearing, Paul released over 1,000 pages of Fauci's private writings, accusing him of covering up the origins of COVID-19. At the hearing, Fauci pointed out that he has responded to similar questions in previous testimonies, and Fauci accused the senator of being obsessed with trying to get him behind bars. The hearing comes days after Paul released diary entries he says were written by Dr. Anthony Fauci, the country's leading infectious disease specialist during the COVID-19 pandemic, that chronicle Fauci's daily life between December of 2019 and December of 2022. Over 1,100 pages of entries span the final years of his tenure as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah.
He retired in December of 2022. What are your thoughts on Fauci pleading the fifth? Call or text 713-440-8870.
It's kind of fascinating. The first point of reference, if I am not mistaken, I want to do that disclaimer, but I believe this is the case. Once you plead the fifth, in a court hearing, you must continue. And if there's a lawyer out there, give me a call right now and help me understand this better. But once you plead the fifth, you must plead the fifth to all questions. You can't cherry pick what you plead the fifth to. So that's why you see like Josh Hawley ask him, so what's the color of the carpet? And then he has to say, I plead the fifth. For them, it's the benefit of getting him to repeatedly say that over and over and over again so somebody can loop them all together and say, look at what Fauci did. But the fact being, once his lawyers instructed him to plead the fifth, everything had to be the fifth. Yeah. And you must respond to the questions you're asked, and the only response he can give is that same statement over and over again. Now, that's just for point of reference. And again, 713-440-8870. If I have that wrong, please give me a call and correct it. But that's what I've always understood. The other part of this is he does claim he has answered these types of questions before numerous times, and that this is kind of a witch hunt out there to get him. Your thoughts, your feelings on that too, let us know. I am fascinated by the diaries, and I went and read some of them. Nowhere have I gotten close to the 1,100 pages of it. I've read quotes from it and probably shouldn't make general sweeping statements about it. But from reading it, it strikes me as a guy who's just kind of slightly awestruck by the celebrity.
Thrust into like COVID era. We can say COVID era now.
Yeah.
Like COVID era celebrity.
Yeah.
You know, where you go places and people recognize you and you're seen as this almost like, I don't know, like an authority figure that can solve all these problems that we have too. You can definitely read. I read a few of the entries as well. You know, there's things about like, I think, was it like Barbara Streisand said
he
hello
butt dialed Barbara Streisand.
Yeah.
And everyone got all concerned about that. Well, she had called him before.
Yeah.
So her number was at the top of his phone. We've all butt dialed the last person who called.
And who hasn't called Babs? I mean,
and I was thinking about that too. I think about a lot of prestigious, even just arts organizations in this city. And if a very wealthy socialite wants an answer to a question about what your organization is doing, so she picks up the phone and calls the top head person, they're going to take that call because you have a status that can help their organization move forward. So if a Barbara Streisand or a Dolly Parton or a Cher calls Fauci, I expect he's going to take their call. And it's not because he's trying to be their buddy.
Or he's trying to talk about.
But they were giving great sums of money too to this research and what was going on. I think Dolly Parton gave $1 million to work on the vaccine. So there was engagement at that level. I just didn't see the smoking gun in his diary. I just saw more of the shucks.
You saw a guy in a government role that was thrust into this celebrity role.
Right.
And how do you grapple with that?
713-440-8870. Chris is on the line from Cyprus. Chris, what's on your mind?
It's a shame that Dr. Fauci, who's dedicated his life to, saving lives and being a man of science, is in this kind of a position. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a catch-22. If he failed to show up, he's in contempt. And if they, try to trip him up on something, and it's just a waste of time, and it's all about smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Chris, thank you for your thoughts on that. And we encourage other folks with other points of view. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I will say the one part of what I heard in the testimony, and I only watched about an hour of it today, so I don't know what else has come out now that we're on the air. But the one part that did concern me was the talk, and I don't know the validity of it, and that's horrible to have to say that during a Senate hearing, that the things that our elected officials say, and I have to caveat that with I don't know if it's valid or not. I really wish we'd get back to a time where
you have to fact check things.
Right, from our elected officials who should be telling us the truth and all of it. But it was the point about how he had used staff to go out and fill out applications for him to get grants and such, which were personal financial rewards for him personally. And I think at some point they said he totaled over $1 million in those kind of grants, and he had his staff doing it. Not that I have a problem with him applying for awards that are awarded for the work he was doing, but using your government employees to do it, there may be a conflict of interest there. But that seems more of a conflict of interest as opposed to a put you behind bar kind of crime. And I also find it interesting in today's day and age and what we see politicians doing and how they enrich their own worlds and how they get there, how this is such a important, concerning ripple. But If in fact the law was broken there, I do have concern with that. As far as being in the moment and what happened during that moment, we have to often sit back and remember what it was like in the early days of the pandemic and the uncertainty and the lack of vaccine and the concern people had about it. Do I think missteps were made? Absolutely. Do I think they were malicious missteps? I haven't seen the proof of that. 713-440-8870. Paul is on the line from Cyprus. Also, Paul, what's on your mind?
Oh, yes, sir. I would like to make a comment about Dr. Fauci.
Please do.
Dr. Fauci is a scholar, a gentleman, a scientist, and a good man. All of the work that he has done is for the good of the country, the good of the people, and the good of humanity.
Paul, thank you for that. I'm assuming you're a Dr. Fauci supporter there from your comments. Yes, thank you. I think that you represent a huge swath of the population who feels that way about him. I think that science is a tricky thing in today's day and age, and it's a shame that political influence has to affect science. Find me the malicious intent, and then I will say we have a crime there. But if it's just scapegoating someone for a political maneuver, it seems a cruel way to treat a man who has done a lot with science and worked through a very difficult time.
And what's the end? What's the end for this? Like,
I got a theory.
What's the goal?
I got a theory for you. I think that there is concern in the direction our public health is going and in the ability to ward off another pandemic or outbreak of something. And they are putting in their holster a scapegoat that they can point to later on. So now they've made on record, he caused all this trouble and now there's no belief in public health. He's the one who caused the problem. So when a future problem comes, you can say, we told you, look what Dr. Fauci did.
The familiar boogeyman, you
right.
can just kind of
so
throw
that
back up
nobody
there,
else gets the splatter of a problem that could be in the near future. That is just a theory. I have nothing to go with it but gut instinct and watching the types of questions that were being asked today to set up Fauci as this fall guy, not just for the past, but potentially in the future.
Can you even imagine what another pandemic?
Oh, I very easily can.
Yeah.
I mean, we see measles coming back. We've seen, I know they've been talking about lettuce a lot today, and that's not really the same thing, as one of these pandemics. We don't know what it is or where it comes from. I was talking with a gentleman who is high up in the Pakistani government a couple of years back, and he was criticizing the U.S.'s approach to the pandemic and how it impacted the whole globe. And my reaction to him was, that's talking about it from today, what we know, what we've learned. Imagine, like I said to you a minute ago, back 4 years ago when we didn't know these things. We didn't know what was going to be next. I remember when we were doing Town Square starting every day of the show with the number of Americans that had died in the last 24 hours and watching those numbers get larger and larger each day and how disturbing that was. And if you graph that out and you see when the vaccine came out, how quickly that number dropped, something was working there. Anyway, 713-440-8870. John from Sugar Land is on the line. John, what are you thinking today?
Well, I'd also like to give my support to Dr. Fauci. I remember him diplomatically trying to avoid or have people not be confused by President Trump's lies made repeatedly during these conferences in the early stages of the pandemic. I mean, he said things like, this is just a flu, it's going to go away. Peter Navarro, his trade representative, had already warned him in early January and then again in February that we might lose 1 million souls. And so I think we should really be examining is why did Trump not encourage vaccination, which has been proven to save lives?
Yeah, it brings up another point for me also when we talk about that, John, is the whole thing that in a different world, I would see Donald Trump being hailed as a savior because of Project Warp Speed, how he pushed for a vaccine and wasn't taking no for an answer. And now there's question about how quickly it got made and what was already in the labs and what they knew how to do and all of that allowed it to happen that quickly. But there was definitely a leadership push there to get a vaccine. But because it seemed as though political ideals shifted around vaccines and taking credit for the vaccines instead of being...
With like a whip crack speed, too.
Yeah, instead of being hailed as a hero who brought us this vaccine,
Yeah.
it had to become something that was downspoken. It's interesting. Thank you for those comments, John. 713-440-8870. Michael from Westgate is on the line. Michael, what's on your mind?
Hi, I just wanted to point out that this persecution of Dr. Fauci is just another nail in the coffin of American science. I mean, Trump cut all these funds, stopped all these programs that many of them are going overseas. The European Union has a 900 million euro budget to acquire American scientists, and we'll suffer for it in the future. So, when the doctor sees how Fauci is being, put on a hot plate, they're gonna think second about serving the nation.
Yeah. Michael, thank you very much for your comments. And as always here on Hello Houston, we want to hear from all thoughts, process, schools of thought. Give us a call, text us, or you can even email us. The phone number is 713-440-887. The email is talk@hellohouston.org. Really quickly, let me grab one more call. It's Tom from Sugar Land. Tom, what's on your mind?
Hey, I wanted to provide Ernie a little bit more nuanced view on Dr. Fauci and his boss at the NIH, Francis Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much that they were good or bad during the pandemic, but were they right or wrong, specifically with regard to the lockdown. And I think the evidence now suggests that they were wrong. If you look at California versus Florida, Florida did not do an extensive lockdown. California did. The differences between them weren't great. If you look at Germany versus Sweden, Germany did a big, heavy lockdown. Sweden didn't, and Sweden came through fine. And what was unfortunate, I think, is Dr. Fauci basically really did everything he could to squash the counter view of lockdowns, and that's where I would hold him at fault. I thought the comment that he made where he said once in a press conference, if you disagree with me, you disagree with science because I represent science, was a statement of breathtaking conceit and something that a person in his position shouldn't have said.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that. I don't know the quote in front of me, but if that is a fact, what he said, then I would agree with you that that's a bit of hubris and probably not the best thing for him to say in that situation. I will also, I hear what you're saying, Tom. I would also agree with the fact that in an uncertain time, missteps are going to happen. I want to see somewhere where it says, or some fact in all of this, where Fauci or Collins were sitting around and said, you know what? I know this isn't going to work, but let's do it anyway because it behooves us in such and such manner. I'm always looking for that smoking gun. And I don't know, maybe it's out there. Maybe we'll see it. Tom, thank you for sharing that point of view, and it gives us more nuance to look at this particular situation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more on it. I'm sure we'll be returning to it as we hear more from what came out of the hearings today. Thank you all for contributing to this. Remember, keep those thoughts and ideas coming in. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, the disturbing and fascinating case of the rapper David, coming up right here on Hello Houston.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
AIPAC is really at a crossroads right now. It is not hard to imagine that in the future there could be a race with two candidates who are both critics of Israel. And AIPAC, if it wants to remain relevant, is going to have to reconsider what it means to be pro-Israel.
I'm Rachel Abrams. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
Coming up tonight at 7.
After 2 years in the political wilderness, Democrats are feeling cautiously optimistic about turning the tide in the midterms.
We have to at least try.
And what frustrates me is I see too many electeds that are afraid to try because they're more worried about getting reelected.
I'm Sasha Pfeiffer. We take you to Michigan, where Democrats are weighing 2 candidates for a critical Senate seat. That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Coming up today at 3 o'clock.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. Cyclospora cases connected to lettuce continue to rise, and we take a look at ways to eat summer foods safely. And I take a tour of Here and Now resident chef Kathy Gunst herb garden.
They are probably the easiest thing to grow, and it's expensive to be buying small little bundles of herbs.
That's next time on Here and Now.
That's coming up in about a half an hour at 1 o'clock.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Craig Lavati.
On Monday, a Los Angeles judge ruled that singer David, a Houston native whose real name is David Burke, must face trial after pleading not guilty to charges connected to the killing of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. The case has drawn widespread attention not only because of David's rapid rise to fame, but because of the online fan community that helped build his career. Our guest today is writer Jennifer Swan, who's reported for Wired, explores how David's devoted fan base evolved after the allegations surfaced, the culture that grew around his music and online persona, and why many of those same supporters ultimately turned into amateur investigators searching for answers and seeking justice for Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Jennifer, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Such a disturbing story on all levels here. And I know that we could sit and talk about the case itself and the evidence and all of that and what's going to happen now that it's moving forward. But really the focus of your reporting was to look at the fan base and what that did to it. And it says a lot about our culture today and how celebrity is seen and what happens when somebody you idolize is shifted in public conception of who they are or impression of who they are and how that shift happens. What was most surprising to you that said, I want to dig deeper into this and explore how this behavior shifted?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on a number of stories over the years about how social media has sort of created this place where people are trying to solve crimes by themselves. They're, motivated by maybe a distrust in law enforcement or these broader justice institutions. And so I think we've seen that happening in lots of different cases on lots of different platforms. And I think what was most interesting in this case was just the way that, David was such an online person. His whole career was really forged on the internet in this really tight-knit fan community. And so I guess I was surprised to see the extent to which people were really just so intrigued and so invested in this case from the very beginning. And that, people were spending their time all hours of the day, sometimes the night, going on YouTube and Google Maps and just trying to find clues. So I think there was a level of commitment, I think, and maybe bordering on a kind of obsession that I think was really unique to this case, in part because David just lived so much of his life online.
The story you wrote is it's thrilling. It's just amazing. I read it this morning, and the story of how these fans, these rabid fans, you're on Discord, you found a community around this artist, all the different pseudonyms that everybody had, and how they were just they this culture around David. And especially because it's SoundCloud rappers too, they become these mythological figures that people above ground don't know about, but underground they're huge. How the fan base turned into these true crime sleuths. This is a generation that's probably younger Gen Z, even probably Gen Alpha. They grew up in the backseat of their cars, the SUVs, listening to their mom, probably listening to a true crime podcast, and so it's now ingrained in the culture now. That you are an investigator, and it's that fifth estate journalism now, where everybody can use it with a Google account. You can do as much digging as you can. Kids are smart these days. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. and it was just the way you laid all that out was just amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I was deep down the rabbit hole,
I can
and
tell.
I had
Yeah.
not, yeah. I mean, I had not spent much time on Discord before this story. I was not super familiar with David's music, and I felt like at a certain point, I became so immersed that I could relate and understand, what his former fans were going through, of feeling like we have all of these resources. We have to get to the bottom of it. And there was this question too of like what they're doing is not dissimilar sometimes from what I do or from what, police might do in a certain instance. And so I do think that people, and especially in this case, I think a lot of his former fans are people who yeah, grew up watching true crime documentaries, watching, like CSI or Law and Order. I think there were all these sort of references in pop culture from TV and podcasts and movies, and people felt like, in part I mean, the reason people started digging into this case is because Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body was discovered, last September, and for months and months and months, into early this current year, David had not been arrested. And so I think people really felt a sense of injustice. They felt righteousness around it. And the people that I talked to who were really digging in, they felt like they had kind of a duty to keep trying to look for evidence, keep looking online, just to kind of like bring this case in the public eye, to let police know. Like no one had any idea that the police were in fact investigating it at this time. And so people really just felt like we have access to this Discord into all these things that maybe adults or maybe law enforcement may not be looking into, right?
Not a lot of, like, Discord is such a strange, nebulous thing for a lot of people out there. They don't understand what Discord is. Can you describe it to some of the Hello Houston listeners, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest analog is, for anyone who's used Slack, especially like in a work setting, it's similar to that, but it definitely grew out of the gaming scene for video games. It's kind of a live chat. There's different channels and sidebars. You can DM people. You can also, so much of it is just in a kind of like general chat log. And in this particular chat, there was I don't remember the exact number. I want to say like tens of thousands of people who probably didn't know each other at all, have a username, have an avatar. A lot of them were minors, and it's kind of this ongoing group chat. And so there's this constant pressure, especially among these moderators of the group, to engage people, to get them excited. And so in general, Discord is just a way that people like chat with each other in real time. But I think in David's fan community, it was also, used as a marketing tool because his fan base was young. They were online. Some of them were gamers. David grew out of the gaming scene. And so I think in this particular Discord, like his label was allegedly also in the Discord, and they were really having these, some of them were kids, they were sending them, album release dates and swag and tour dates and kind of trying to get people really hyped up for David. So it also kind of served this purpose of like, yes, it was communicating people, but I think also it was helping him to sell records and concert tickets.
I guess one part of this that kind of fascinates me and help me through this, the facts or evidence in the case seems so, I don't want to say obvious, but you've got a dead 14-year-old girl at your home who has been dismembered, and part of her is found in your car, the rest in your garage. And it seems like the kind of case where there's not a lot of sleuthing needed to figure it out. What ignited this fan base to say, we need to know more? What was the curiosity that drove this growth, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was exactly what you're getting at, which is on the surface, this should be, any of us, I think, would think that if there is a dead body discovered in our car, we would be arrested. We would be interrogated, like that's it feels like how much of a smoking gun can you get? Right. And so I think the fact that David had not been arrested, that the LAPD had not so much as put out a statement, they even worked to conceal the autopsy report. And so there was this sense among David's former fans and also people who just cared about this girl, that like maybe nothing is going to happen, and why are people, concealing evidence and that kind of thing. And I think one factor was feeling like we can't let this go by the wayside. We can't let, like a famous or a rich person literally get away with murder. I think that was the fear. And I think the other aspect was that there was this breadcrumb. So in some ways, the case was like this quintessential true crime mystery, in that there was so much kind of like digital evidence and not necessarily evidence that would hold up in a court. It sort of remains to be seen whether,
you
the
mentioned
prosecutors will use evidence, from his like TikTok or Twitch or, his Discord. But I think people are really drawn in by the fact that this girl who was identified as the girl who was found dismembered in his car had also seemingly appeared on, his social media, or she was like,
she was on a
photo
Twitch
she was
stream,
kind of
I
obscuring
think,
her
right?
face.
Yeah, that she was on a Twitch stream, and then he had said, pull that down. She's underage. Like, I don't want people to. And I think, and also the fan base, I think also they wanted to do justice and do right by one of their own. That Celeste was one of their own, and they wanted to make sure that she was taken care of and that somebody else couldn't be victimized either. They saw her as a family member.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, I think when Celeste was still alive, people, the people who were moderators of David's community, they had some sense that David was dating this person named Celeste. They say they didn't know she was underage. And I think after she was killed, they felt a deep sense of injustice and just wanting him to be accountable for this murder, where, as you say, it seems like the evidence is so overwhelming. And the more I talk to people in his fan community, I mean, a lot of them were in their teens and their 20s, and a lot of people did have experiences of their own with being groomed online, and that really, it made sense, I think, in terms of their motivation, because I think it's easy to look at this case on the surface and say, like, these are just true crime people who are getting really wrapped up in this thing that doesn't affect them. But I think a lot of people in his community, like, they had grown up like playing video games, being on Roblox, being on Discord, and meeting people in chat rooms and feeling like, oh, like I could have been Celeste. And so I think that really created this deep sort of sense of like motivation for people to try to bring her to justice.
I just want to remind you all, we are speaking with writer Jennifer Swan, who has been looking at the fan base, I don't know if that's the right word, though, surrounding rapper David and the very disturbing case of what happened to the 14-year-old girl Celeste, who was found dead in his car and garage. I say it like that because she was dismembered. If you'd like to get into the conversation, 713-440-8870. When you talk about all of this and the folks online involved in it, how much of it do you think was a search for trying to understand what seemed the unimaginable when you idolize a particular performer and you hear of this heinous crime? Was that a search to try and understand what had happened?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of his former fans in the beginning were, they described this sense of feeling in denial. And a big part of this case, too, and the intrigue around it is the fact that, like, David did sing about murder. His most famous song is called Romantic Homicide, which is just, it's chilling and it feels a little on the nose, right, in retrospect. And so I think there were people who were feeling like, this is too, it couldn't be that this person who sings about murdering his lover has actually done this. So I think there was this like the sense of denial, the sense of like, that people were oversimplifying it. And I think as time went on and people began to see shreds of, Celeste in his social media, I think there was a search for wanting to understand every aspect of the case. And sure, you can attribute that to like fandom or these toxic parasocial relationships online. And I think that was a part of it. But I think people also genuinely were like, yeah, how did this singer that I used to relate to and I used to idolize, like, how was he capable of doing this really horrendous thing? And, I was looking at this case, starting from the very beginning of this year. He was only arrested, in April. And even in January, February, people on Reddit, were putting together these super detailed timelines, wanting to understand when did the two of them meet? When, is this photo of them seemingly in Vegas together real? And all of these things, it's interesting to hear at the preliminary trial that just concluded. A lot of these aspects of the timeline that amateur investigators put together are accurate in terms of the prosecutor's allegations of how this all played out. Like, yes, Celeste's parents had signed a permission slip for her to travel with him to these concerts all over the world. And those are the things that people were picking up on early on.
And that's why the
so I think
parents
for them,
the parents have not spoken publicly either, have they?
they have not.
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of.
How much of the online sleuthing can be used in court or has guided the investigation? Do you know how much the authorities are following what's happening in these chats to help them through to build the case?
I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't know. I can't imagine that they're not already aware of all of these things that people have been sort of like sounding the alarm about online. I am curious to see if that will play a part in trial. I also know that, like, in my experience reporting on cases that have this big social media footprint, often, the authorities and law enforcement are usually do not want to acknowledge the social media impact on the case. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not quite sure what the relationship is there.
Well, if folks want a fascinating read, they should read what you've written about all this. It puts a new focus on what fandom is all about in today's day and age, and with the what word I'm looking for there, the social media impact on all of it and how different it is. Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us today and talking about this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jennifer Swan. You can read her story, They Made David a Star, Now They Want Him Convicted of Murder, at Wired.com. Coming up, dispelling the myths of organ donation. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Tonight at 8 o'clock.
Adults are going crazy for toys, and they're willing to spend adult money on them.
Realistically, over the past few years, definitely a couple $1,000s. Yeah, I'd say.
I'm Kai Rizal. The price of a penchant for Labubus next time on Marketplace.
Listen to Marketplace later tonight at 6:30 on News 88.7.
This week on This American Life.
I just think we're opening a whole can of worms here that we don't want to be.
To better understand testosterone and its effects, I and the staff of the radio show get our testosterone levels checked to see who has the most.
For the men, I think it'll be a big deal. You'll know when you're talking to each other who beat you. I think it'll change everything.
This whole thing is going to lead to heartbreak.
This American Life. It's on tonight at 10 p.m. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV 8, enjoy 2 episodes of Antiques Roadshow from the Denver Botanic Gardens at 7 and the Maryland Zoo at 8. Then Iconic America looks at the American Bald Eagle at 9. Tonight on TV 8.
PBS Drama on HPM+.
The dramas you can't stop watching. Now in one place. Stream on demand. Catch up on past seasons with Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs.
HPM+.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manouse and guest host Craig Lavati.
According to the organ procurement organization LifeGift, there are currently more than 11,000 Texans in need of a life-saving organ donation. But waiting lists continue to grow as new people are added to the national wait list every 8 to 10 minutes. While most would agree that organ donation is vital for saving thousands of lives, there are common misconceptions about organ donation that can prevent people from choosing to become donors. Joining us now to debunk these misconceptions is Dr. Yolanda Becker, the Chief Medical Officer and Vice President of LifeGift. Dr. Becker, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here today.
I want to just jump on something in the intro, and you can help me with the numbers on this, that the national wait list, somebody joins it every 8 to 10 minutes. How often does somebody come off of it?
So
we get an idea how quickly this is unbalanced.
Well, the thing is that, especially for kidney transplant, that's where the vast majority of the greatest number of people exist on the list. The rate at which people come off can be for a wonderful reason for donors that, families that become heroes and they're actually transplanted. Sadly, there are people who come off the list every day because they die waiting for an organ. And that's about 18 to 20 a day that will come off. So, it's we hope that it's for something like either living donation or a deceased organ donor, but very often it's because they become too sick or they die awaiting a transplant.
But with those numbers, then we see that it's the need. We say 11,000, but it's greatly outgrowing.
Yes, the need greatly outgrows. Outgrows what we have in people who donate, either living donation, if it's kidney, they can donate, or a part of their liver. People can be living donors, or deceased donation.
No, my grandfather passed away in 2008 at 77, and he donated. He was a donor, and
Yes.
Not to get too inside the weeds with it, but we even had to what's it called? We had to delay his services because he was busy being. They were harvesting things, and it was one of those things where we were at the funeral and we were talking about that, and I was like, he gave so much in life to us. He was either teaching me how to drive a truck, or taking me to my first job, or he was helping another generation. He was helping a baby. He was donating tissue and all these things, corneas, things like that. So life gift has always been really close to my heart too. We went to a few of those reunions where the families of the donors can be in the same room with some of the people who got the organs and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
so,
that's so incredibly meaningful. And I think it brings out a great point, which many people think that in their 70s or 80s that they cannot be an organ or tissue donor.
Yeah.
And clearly they can. I think age is a construct. And sometimes people are, I'm from Wisconsin originally, and people would be shoveling snow and something would happen. And, they can be in their 70s and 80s, and actually with all of the new innovations and scientific achievements, organs that even in my career were not transplanted before are able to be safely transplanted and save lives. And that's the important thing, is that there's the potential for 8 solid organ donors, 8 solid organs to be donated and save lives. Also, 75 or more individuals can benefit from tissue donation. Yeah. And if you've ever been to the dentist, it's highly likely you've had an implant or something placed that from a tissue donor. So there are lots of opportunities. And I think
there's bone donation,
there's bone,
there's skin,
there's cornea. And the wonderful thing about all of this is that these are difficult times for families. Usually it's an unexpected death, but it allows somebody's legacy to continue on. Yeah. Just like your grandfather taught you all these skills, he continues to allow other people to learn skills. And I think sometimes people get scared about organ donation. However, I think the important thing is that somebody's legacy can continue on.
Oh, yeah.
And there is the opportunity to be considered a donor before you are declared brain dead. And I think that's where there's a lot of misunderstanding. And sometimes those patients actually might not progress to death. We still consider them a donor in spirit because their family very generously said, we would at least like to try.
Mm-hmm. There is the misconception, and we'll get into a bunch of the misconceptions, but you take me to one very talked about, very obvious one, is that, wow, if they know I'm an organ donor and I'm not doing so well, they're not going to work so hard to save me. And that's why I don't want to sign up for this, because I want them to give their full effort. Talk about that.
Yes. I actually trained as first a general surgeon, then an abdominal transplant surgeon. And I can say that from the bottom of my heart that the healthcare team is working their darndest to help a patient. you didn't come to the hospital to become an organ donor. You came to the hospital to have that potential to walk out of the hospital. That's sometimes where we run into trouble, even with our healthcare teams, is that it's so hard to let go of that patient and to actually say to the family, we have a very poor prognosis, or we anticipate the outcome is not going to be what anybody would have hoped. That is a very hard thing for a healthcare team to actually admit. And our team actually also expresses condolences, not only to the family, but also to the healthcare team. There is a huge sense of loss. You know, I'm reminded of a scene when they were showing Hopkins, and they were showing a transplant surgeon in the hallway with his head hung low because there had been a poor outcome. And my sister-in-law called me, and she's like, does that really happen? I'm like, absolutely. I remember every single patient that had a poor outcome. And believe me, we will do anything and everything to save a life. So they're an organ donor. Your healthcare team doesn't know whether you're an organ donor until they go to the point of saying, okay, there is a potentially poor outcome. We have the option for end-of-life care and options of things to do. So there is the option of simply removing an endotracheal tube, and there is an option for potentially being an organ donor. Mm-hmm. So we always work very hard to take care of patients.
Let me ask a couple other of these. There's the question of religion. Some people feel if my container of my body is disrupted and things are taken, that's
if you don't cross over complete.
That kind of thing,
yes, and
thank you for wording that better than I was.
Yes, well, there, and particularly Native American tribes are very much. Certain tribes I must be buried with everything. There are many creative ways that we've worked with families to make sure that things like an open casket can happen. Things like I want to make sure that I am buried in a certain way. That can be respected and can happen. There is actually no major religion that prohibits organ donation. As a matter of fact, the sanctity of life is considered primary, and you are actually saving another person's life. What greater gift to give? Mm-hmm. So, that's what we try to allow people to remember. And there are ways, like if you say, okay, you don't need the whole liver, so we can take a biopsy and allow that to go to continue to honor whatever the belief system may be. But we will work with the family, we will work with church elders to help them to understand and to honor whatever is important for them.
And I'm of the mind too. When I cross over, like I'd rather I can't take it with me.
Right, and there's a bumper sticker.
I'd rather somebody else prolong their life.
And the other thing people don't understand is like, well, this doesn't make sense to me. My family member is dying, and yet you're telling me the organs can be transplanted. How does that work? Why can't they continue on then? And what happens is that the organs in certain environments will not continue to communicate and talk with one another effectively. So they don't work in their loved one anymore. But if you pull the organs and recover those organs outside of that environment, they can very much save somebody else's life. I mean, I can't tell you the thrill of watching an organ kind of, when we take it out, we flush the blood out and we put it usually on a pump or machine so that it can be resuscitated, and we can make sure it's going to function in the recipient. And then you put it in the recipient, you hook up the vessels, and the heart starts to pump. I mean, I get chills thinking about it. The lungs take a breath. The kidney starts to make urine. I mean, it is a miracle.
Yeah.
It really is a miracle, and there's just nothing quite like it.
Quickly, before we run out of time, too, because we're almost out of time, a lot of people are worried about already existing conditions, people that had hepatitis, have AIDS, blood diseases, different things. Where do they sit in being able to donate?
So the gift is in the yes, the gift is in the consideration. And then we as the organ procurement organization will make sure that what we're doing is safe. There are very, very few absolute contraindications to organ donation. Even HIV donors can donate to HIV positive recipients. Hepatitis C can be cured. Your option with no organ, if you're the recipient, may be death. Mm-hmm. Therefore, there's a surprising number of things that actually people say, I'm too sick. Nope. Nope. Absolutely
Well,
not.
what I've got to say yes to is it's at the end of the show and I'm out of time. But Dr. Becker, thank you so much. It's fascinating. And I hope if people want to give, where do they go? How can they start this process?
Register themselves at donatelifetexas.org, or they can look up lifegift.org or give us a buzz. We're always happy to answer questions.
Dr. Becker, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the show. I'm tight on time, so I can't say any more except thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. Craig, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Baylor College of Medicine. With over 125 years of innovation behind it, Baylor has driven progress in health and medicine through